everyone for session 2 of the pivot sessions. Last week we had Sean from Mind Data. He talked us through how he kept his dream and has changed who the tech can be best for and how he's been developing that. So you can check that out on our Scale Up page. It was super useful. Today we're continuing the conversation about pivots, and today focusing on employee happiness and how that can be a key KPI and how that can drive business growth. So super excited to introduce Richard to you, who is the CEO and founder of Secret Sauce. Let's jump right in. So Richard, tell us about your journey so far and how you got to starting and developing Secret Sauce.
Hello, good afternoon. Hi, it's great to be here. Okay, so right, so let's start with the easy bit. Secret Sauce, we're a software company. We're based in Gran Canaria in Spain, and we started the company 10 years ago in 2014. And why the journey? I've got a long personal journey, but why did I start Secret Sauce? Well, before I worked in Secret Sauce, I used to teach. I used to run teams in India. I was a project manager for teams in India, and I just felt that the whole outsourcing IT development, software development could be done better. The theory at the time was that to build the best software, you just needed to hire the best developers, put them in a room together, and everything else would sort itself out. But I had some really good developers in India, and yeah, the results weren't amazing. So I had this theory, and my theory was that they weren't working. The work they were doing wasn't perfect because they were working as individuals, as not as teams. And if I could get teams together in Gran Canaria, if I could make them happy, so that they collaborated better, so that they learned from each other, and so they were more invested in our company and more invested in our clients, then we'd do better work. Okay, so that was my theory. Happier teams would produce better software. Yeah.
And how did you make that happen? How did that go from an idea into a business?
Right. So in 2014, when I started, I thought, yeah, this will be easy. How do you make teams happy? Right. You just give them a good salary, you give them some pizzas, give them free breakfast on a Thursday, maybe some yoga lessons, get some nice sofas in the office. Bam, you're done. You'll have a happy team and everything else will work out. And it did. It was fine. It was fine for a couple of years, and we built a nice team. They were really good friends. And then after about 2 years, we sent out a survey to our team. We said, "How happy are you feeling?" They all said 7, 8 out of 10. And then the last question was, "Do you see yourself here in 1 year's time?" Right? Half the team said no. So it was at that point, for about 2017, that we realized that making people happy is a little bit more difficult than you think. Yeah.
So tell me, what did you do to change that?
So what did we do? Yeah. So hundreds and hundreds of things, probably little changes we did over the time. But at that point, so 2017, we sent out this survey. 50% said they didn't want to stay with us. And so the first thing we did was we worked out. We asked them, why don't you want to stay with us? And the overwhelming majority said, yeah, we just don't see we love working here. We've got great friends. But we don't see a career. We don't know how we're going to get promoted, how we're going to get a pay rise. Haven't got a structured learning. And it was at that point that we sort of realized, oh, okay, happiness is more than just nice things in the office and having fun. And people need more than that. And it was at that point that I really started diving deep on the psychology, the behavioral science behind happiness, just personal happiness and happiness in the workplace. And since then, we've done probably 100, 200 experiments and changed little things here, big things there. All makes a difference.
And can you tell us some of the more successful experiments and maybe some of the ones that didn't quite go to plan?
Yeah. So basically, there were hundreds of things that make people happy, right? But you can, so if you want to get healthier, you need to there's three things: diet, exercise, and sleep, right? Those are the three things. You need to focus on those and learn a bit, and for happiness, it's the same in the workplace. There are sort of 5, 6 areas that you need to work on. You need to feel safe at work. You need to feel part of a community. You need to feel that you're gonna learn things. You've got to have purpose, and you need to feel you've got autonomy. So those are the 5 areas. And so some of the experiments we did, and some of them are really interesting. So the one I tell the most people, because it's sort of it connects with them, is we moved our coffee machine. Right, that's all we did. So when we built a new office, and we put Nespresso machines on every floor. They're little with the capsules. And what happened was everyone used to go and get their coffee, grab it, and go and sit back at their desk. And then one of our team said to us, we'd like to have fresh coffee, and we'd like to have ground coffee. We looked at one of those massive machines, but we didn't have a surface big enough to put them on. They're massive; they take up a huge amount of space. So we just got one of they're called mocha pots. You know, the ones you put on the stove, the little hexagonal ones. We put that on the stove, and it was a big one, made like 15 cups of espresso at a time. And we put it on the hob. And this person who was organizing it, what happened was he would go and make the coffee, and then he'd send a Slack message out to everyone in the team saying coffee's ready. And what happened was everyone went up to the kitchen and had coffee together and spent 15 minutes chatting. And then after that, the tea drinkers said, "Oh, we want more of this." They asked for a big teapot. So they got rid of their little individual tea making kits, got a big teapot, and they started having it. So before, what we were finding was that our team weren't sort of chatting outside their work a lot of the time. And just this one tiny change, which was an accident, by the way, brought our team together, and then just made us more aware of what we need to do.
Amazing. And can you tell us an example of one of the experiments that didn't quite go to plan?
Didn't quite go to plan. So when lockdown started, yeah, our team were reporting that they were feeling disconnected from the company, not disconnected from their teams. They were feeling because they were working in like teams of 3 to 5 people. They were still working with them, but they were feeling disconnected from the company as a whole. Right. So we tried lots of different things to try to get the whole company together. And one of them was daily games. So we'd start off the day, everyone would come online at 9 o'clock for 15 minutes, and it would each day a different person would choose a different online game. So we'd have jigsaws one day, online jigsaws one day. We'd have Pictionary another. We'd have, I can't remember. We did lots of them. And yeah, it sort of worked a little bit, but we abandoned it after about a month.
Brilliant. No Pictionary.
No Pictionary at the office doesn't work. No.
And how did you communicate that this was going to be a change and a change of focus? Did you sit down and tell your team, we recognise that we're not retaining you and we want to make sure that we're creating somewhere you want to stay for a long time? Or how was the communication?
Okay, so the communication wasn't at the beginning. So when we started in 2014, we're like an agency. We were doing 3-month projects, and then change another 3 months, then another 3 months, another 3 months. Lots of sort of small projects through the year. And our focus has always been on to make our teams happy. That made that clear right from the start. That wasn't our pivot. Our pivot was in 2019 when we realized that this type of work wasn't making our teams happy and wasn't making our clients really happy either. And it happened. Basically, someone held a gun to my head. They told us it was our head project manager at the time. She said to me, we had our biggest client, right? Our biggest client, and it wasn't going great. Our team just didn't like working with them. It was very profitable, but our team didn't like working with them. And our head project manager said to me, "We need to finish with this client. because whatever we do, they're never going to be happy. And I said, no, no, we can. What about we try this? We need to try this. And she said, stop it. If our main KPI is to make our team and our clients happy, right? This is not going to work. We have to stop them. And if we don't stop them, you have to stop saying that happiness is our most important KPI. And at that point, she got me, and I was like, oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. So it was that point that we rethought how we run our business to make our teams happy. And we spoke to the team. They said they prefer to work on longer projects where they get to know the clients. Our clients said the same. So we pivoted from being this agency model to building teams that stayed for a long time in the company. Yeah.
So they now work as an extension of the team in the business versus as an agency.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And your question before was how did the team take it? How did we communicate it? So we told them, and half the team said, "Oh, this is a great idea," and half of them just thought, "Yeah, you're just saying this to get more sales." It's just like everybody says on their About Us page, "We want our team to be happy." You're just saying it, and yeah, it took a long time to convince them that we actually believed in it, but it was just.
And obviously, you studied this in
Yeah.
the behavior of happiness, and how do you, what sort of the proof do you have that this will make changes in the way you work and changes it will make the team happy, but also will help business growth? Because obviously, at the end of the day, you are a business and you do need to scale as well as make sure everyone's happy.
Exactly, and the point I always want to point out is that nobody will be happy if we don't grow as a business and we
Yeah.
make no profit. Yeah, staff will not be happy if we don't pay them at the end of the month. So that's the key objective, is to survive and thrive as a business. But honestly, for I don't know, for about the first 7 years of doing this, I used to tell people this is what we do, and they used to go, "Oh, bless you, that's lovely. That's lovely. What a nice place to work." Won't make any difference to me as a client, but what a nice thing. Sort of pat me on the head like a small child type thing. But last year there was a massive study done. It was the biggest ever study on well-being in the workplace, done by Indeed and Oxford University. Like tens of thousands of companies, millions and millions of users, and there's look, we've always known that there's a link between productivity and happiness, and retention and happiness, and attractiveness of companies to get employees. We've always known about that, but this study found that there was a direct link between employee happiness and company performance. So they looked at share performance, and they compared their top 100 happiest companies with the S&P 500, Dow Jones, etc. And they found that happier companies have their shares perform 20% better consistently than your average company. So yeah, we actually last year they actually showed that it's a really good thing to measure and a really good thing to do. Yeah.
And how do you measure it? Do you stick to the same surveys that you used to send out, or have you found new ways to do it?
So we've tried lots and lots and lots of ways of measuring it, and we've just come back to a simple question: how do you feel this week? Right, and that's it. But the key thing is you don't say good, bad, okay. You say either on a number scale or you say it on a color scale, because this is really important, because if it's very difficult to someone to say, I'm not feeling good at work this week, or my manager's being a pain. It's very difficult for them to say that because they don't feel safe a lot of the time. But it's a lot easier to say, how are you feeling this week? I'm feeling a 3, or I'm feeling orange, or I'm feeling 2. Yeah, it's very easy to say that. And then that gives their project lead, their manager, their line manager, an inroad into it, where they feel safe. So, why are you feeling a 2? Tell me more about your 3 or your orange. Yeah. So that's how we ask it.
And is that so the score then goes to the manager and the manager can then have a conversation versus it being sort of a free form answer as a
Yes.
second question?
Yeah. So we've experimented with that as well. We found that nobody wrote anything in the extra text box. So what we do is we send out an email. Well, it's a form, and then they select it, and we've got a system that does it now. And then in their one-to-ones, they catch up with them. Yeah.
Brilliant. Um, steal that one.
There's lots of good software out there that does it already. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've tried quite a few of them and
Okay.
to different effects actually. There's we have used different ones, especially when I was still in house. We'd look at different tools and the way in which you'd send it, whether it be Slack or email or whether it should
Yeah.
be in one-to-ones
Yeah.
and how you actually get. And I think similarly, we used something similar at Yacht, which just gave that overall feeling,
Yeah.
and we could track that and see how that changed dependent on um, what was going on on at that point in terms of
Yeah.
success. The tell me, if you look back now, what would you do differently with that all-knowing opportunity to look back with and see what the results were?
So do you know what? I don't think we'd do. I don't think I'd do anything differently, and the reason is we made loads of mistakes, right? And I could just avoid all of those mistakes. But making those mistakes was the best thing that could have happened, because that's when you don't really. If someone tells you to do something, you don't understand really why you need to do it, and failing miserably at some things, you really understand why it's so important to do X and do Y. So I don't think I would change anything. I think the learning is really important. And well, I speak to quite a few startups and people who are starting up in business, and they say, how do you deal with the down times? Because there's a lot of down
Hmm.
times. They're not nice at all. And the way I think about it is you will come out a lot stronger at the end of it, and you have to have those down times to get the good times. And so, yeah, I think it's an important part of learning.
Ah, interesting. So and what would you say if someone was going through it, one of the sort of down times at the moment, what would be the first sort of things you'd do to try and improve that employee happiness at that point?
If someone in my companies, if they're not feeling great, which happens, and that's really important. It's really important that your company doesn't report 4s and 5s out of 5 all the time, because that means they're not telling the truth, because not everyone's happy all the time. If you are, you're psychotic. So um yeah, if someone's feeling down, which happens, you just have to talk to them and listen to them, and properly listen to them, understand why they're feeling down, and then if you can do something, do something, and if not, just say you're there, to help.
And so in terms of the top things that would make people happy at work, do you think it's the management style and the making sure they feel safe?
Okay, so the way I think about it is there are things that make you happy and things that make you unhappy, right? And safety is, feeling safe won't make you happier, but not feeling safe will make you unhappy, right? And when you're unhappy, it's difficult to become happier. Or if you don't feel safe at work, then yeah, however many sofas, however many free breakfasts you have, they're not gonna work. So to make a company happy, you have to first make them feel safe, and another thing is you need to pay them well. If you pay them fairly, if you don't pay someone fairly, that affects them negatively as well, and it's difficult to make someone happy after that. But psychological safety and safety at work is, I think, the most important thing you need to do. The first thing you need to do. Yeah.
Brilliant. And just a question, it's like a different question. When you're talking about the
Mhm.
teams, you're talking
Yeah.
about they all seem to be in person, but
Yeah.
obviously now since COVID particularly, we're looking at a lot more remote teams or fragmented teams, of some in the office and some in
Yeah.
different countries.
Yeah.
Do you think it's important from the studies that you've seen, do you think being in person is important?
Okay. So yes, I do. It's the studies have shown that it's easier to feel safer if you're in person, right? Full stop. However, it's not. it's not impossible to feel safe remotely. You just have to be a lot more intentional about it. You can't assume that someone's going to be safe, because just just for example, in the office, you if you go into the office and you're hanging out with your co-workers, you walk to meetings together and you chat on the way to a meeting. You might go and have a coffee together. You might do and have little conversations, and that builds up relationships and that builds up psychological safety. When you're working remotely, that never ever happens. How often do you think, oh, I'm just going to call this person at work and ask him if he watched the football last night? Yeah, you just you just wouldn't do it, would you? And Zoom isn't set up that way to do it. So you just have to be more intentional. You have to realize that these interactions are not taking place, and you have to make a space for them to happen. Yeah.
And that is that sort of, if we were to say, what advice would you give to founders or people in very early stages, the management teams, where they're
Yep.
looking at just starting to build teams?
Yep.
How would you make sure that employee happiness starts and the building blocks are put out in the right way to grow your team well?
So, right, if you wanted to make more sales in a company, right, you would probably put someone in charge of it. You'd probably create some KPIs, and then you create a strategy around it, right? It's the same with if you want to keep your team happy. Someone should be in charge of it. You don't need a chief happiness officer, but someone's in charge of it. Takes responsibility. Set some KPIs. That maybe it's measure your team's happiness once a week, and then have a strategy around it. And it doesn't have to be very labor intensive. It can be as little as measure happiness, speak to people, and then make any changes if needed. That can be, but you just have to measure it. Start by measuring it, or at least monitoring it.
That's great
Yeah.
advice. That's
Thank
great
you.
advice. So tell me, is this your final pivot or what's next?
What's next? Okay, so no, I made a massive pivot in my life. 2 years ago, I've got two daughters. Well, they're 16 and 14. And 2 years ago, one of my daughters came home from school and she said to me, "Daddy," they still call me Daddy, which is nice. And she said, "Daddy, I've only got 4 more summers with you, and then I'm off." And I went, "Oh my god, where is this time gone?" Uh, wow. And so at that point, I made a decision. Right, I'm going to spend more time with my family and enjoy the summer. So I stepped down as the CEO of my company and handed over the reins to Rachel, who's now our CEO. And I have the summers off. Every summer off I have with my kids. And so what I do now is I work less in the company, and I now share what I've learned, and I teach other companies how to be happier. So I teach them the science of happiness.
Amazing. And how do you do? Is that a one-to-one thing, or how do people get that?
How to be. I do workshops. I do online workshops with companies. I do talks. And I write a wonderful blog each week, which gives one little hack that you can use in your company to make your teams happier. Yeah.
Brilliant. We'll share that. We'll share the Substack link in the
Thank you very
notes
much.
and the
Yeah.
email. Um, Amazing. Oh, well, thank you very much. This was so useful. I'm sure
Thank
lots
you.
of people are going to be taking this advice. Let's hope. Thank
I
you
hope
so
so.
much, Rich. We'll share this in our newsletter this week, and obviously anybody can rewatch this as soon as we finish today. But thank you very much, Richard. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye bye.